Travis Wayne Goodsell. Okay, class. It was, I don't know how many years ago, when I started doing Book of Mormon is coded videos. And it was not well received. I had people commenting, "What's a code?" And I'm trying to tell people, hey, the Doctrine and Covenants was coded. What? What are you talking about? And so I've had to do a different approach in my videos over these last couple of years, or however long it's been since I first started that and failed to get people's attention. And yeah, YouTube has helped with the censorship. But hopefully by now, the newer generation of viewers are catching on to some of the techniques that I'm trying to get across for you with the coding. And so, yeah, none of the scriptures are literal histories. None. None. Unless you can find archaeological evidence to establish that, you ain't gonna find it. Chronicles, the later Chronicles and the later Kings are close to literal histories, as those guys are confirmed in the archaeological record. But the stories, in Genesis especially, none of that happened. In the Gospels, none of that happened. And thus the Book of Mormon, none of that happened. Doctrine and Covenants, coded. It sort of happened, but not the Joseph Smith history part. None of that happened. And so, again, it's the learning of the Jews, Messianic literature, Jewish manner of prophesying. That's how you're supposed to understand it. That's another way of saying coded. And so, this is not a video for those of you who are brand new and are like, code? What's a code? What do you mean Jesus is not the Christ? Yeah, code. And so, let's revisit the Book of Mormon again. See if we can do a better job of getting people to understand what's really going on. And this applies to ex-Mormons, because Mormons don't care. They're hard-hearted. They're just going to put a thumbs down and run away scared. Whereas ex-Mormons, pay attention, guys. Because you've already made your conclusion, just like Mormons made their conclusion, and both your conclusions are wrong, because you didn't do the scientific research. This is how you do research, is through the science process. You develop a theory. I saw an SNL skit on that yesterday. It was an older one. And then you identify the patterns and find out anomalies, and the theories are to explain the anomalies. And it has to be in the form of sound reasoning, Socratic method, premises deductively concluding, rather than you forcing the conclusion with your biases. And then you need to have it testable. You need to test your theory. If you don't allow it to be tested, or if you make it supernatural so that it can't be tested, you didn't follow the Socratic method, and you're never going to know the truth. You're just going to create the truth ex nihilo, and you let the results of your test determine the narrative when you're dealing with history, for example, because that has a narrative. And so with all that, let's go over it. See what we can find. Now that I've given you the real church history, I've given you the real understanding of scriptures, I've given you the origin documents from the Egyptian texts, as well as many other things. So, 1 Nephi, chapter 1. You have to include the summary because that was part of the record. Bruce R. McConkey's chapter heading? No. You can disregard Bruce R. McConkey. He's not going to get it right. I will know no better then than I know now because I never bothered to actually study and use the science process. Yep. All those Jesus books, calling him Messiah, and all wrong. All a waste. Because he didn't follow the science. So, an account of Lehi and his wife, Sariah, and his 4 sons, being called, beginning at the eldest, Laman, Lemuel, Sam, and Nephi. The Lord warns Lehi to depart out of the land of Jerusalem, because he prophesieth unto the people concerning their iniquity, and they seek to destroy his life. He taketh 3 days' journey into the wilderness, with his family. Nephi taketh his brethren, and returneth to the land of Jerusalem. After the record of the Jews, the account of their sufferings, they take the daughters of Ishmael to wife, they take their families and depart into the wilderness. Their sufferings and afflictions in the wilderness, the course of their travels. They come to large waters. Nephi's brethren rebel against him. He confoundeth them, and buildeth a ship. They call the name of the place Bountiful. They cross the large waters into the promised land, and so forth. This is according to the account of Nephi, or in other words, I, Nephi, wrote this record. Okay? Now, first we start with the real church history. And we start with Canandaigua, New York, 9/11/1826. William Morgan is there at the lodge where Joseph Smith Sr. is the Master Mason. And he doesn't get to finish the book because people are trying to murder him. And they're sending him death threats by having him falsely locked up in jail. And so, Joseph Smith Sr., as the Master Mason, helps him depart out of the country, flee the country for his safety. And as the Master Mason, he would then take on the responsibility to finish the book. So, the original 116 pages did not get finished. And so what happened with the original 116 pages? Well, that's where Junior comes into the mix. And Junior, his son dies. Martin Harris steals the 116 pages, heads back to Palmyra with them. And so Junior loses his gift. And so who's taking over? Joseph Smith Sr. is now taking over, and therefore is doing an abridgment of the record of William Morgan, and is calling it 1st and 2nd Kings, Nephi, because it corresponds with the 4 books of Kings in the Old Testament. And so what you're seeing here is William Morgan is Lehi, and Nephi, as the one writing this, is Joseph Smith Sr. But he's writing it as if he were Junior, because that's who they had be the front man for it. So you see how they're doing it? And apologists have the word for it. It's transubstantiation. And so, but you'll also remember 2 Nephi chapter 3 has Joseph, son of Joseph. So Nephi, son of Nephi, no big deal. Also understand that each segment story is going to have different character representations for the names that are given. And so Lehi means jawbone in Hebrew. William Morgan is the mouthpiece for this. He's the one who uncovered the plot to destroy America, and is writing the book about it. So here Joseph Smith Sr. is rewriting the 116 pages and using his Jewish mysticism and his Knights Templar knowledge from the York Rites Freemasonry to encode the message, because Martin Harris was on the anti-Mason committee, and that's why Joseph had to go into hiding for a year to make sure that the coast was clear. So that's a background understanding that I've been trying to go over with you. Alright, ignore Bruce. So I, Nephi, having been born of goodly parents, therefore I was taught somewhat in all the learning of my father. Now we're seeing how Senior is writing as Junior. So Junior is Nephi in this particular case, even though it's Senior who's doing all the writing to correct the botched job of Junior. And so he's talking about his father, which is Nephi, son of Nephi. But Lehi is what he's talking about here. And having seen many afflictions in the course of my days, nevertheless having been highly favored of the Lord in all my days, yea, having had a great knowledge of the goodness and the mysteries of God. There's your Jewish mysticism, guys. Great knowledge, goodness, mysteries. Mysteries originates in meaning as initiation rituals in a temple. Your washings and your anointings to become Melchizedek, a high priest and a king, which is Christ. Anointed. Therefore I make a record in the proceedings of my days. And so he's abridging the record of William Morgan because of the lost 116 pages. Yeah, I make a record in the language of my father, which consists of the learning of the Jews, Jewish mysticism, and the language of the Egyptians. So you're supposed to put the Egyptian god Amun in place of Jesus. And it's not Jews. These are codes. But learning of the Jews is referring to Jewish mysticism in this particular case. But he's talking about Jews later on here. Alright. And I know that my record which I make is true, and I make it with my own hands, and I make it according to my knowledge that was passed down from William Morgan. So that gives you background understanding. And notice you're not finding any of this information in any commentary put out by the church. No duh. Alright. So, for it came to pass in the commencement of the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. Okay. This is obviously code. It's referring to the biblical account of the actual historical character who was put on the throne of Judah, Jerusalem, by Nebuchadnezzar. This is the first conquering by Nebuchadnezzar of Jerusalem. And it's 5 97 BCE. And he put one of his on the throne as a puppet king. And he's supposed to give tribute to Nebuchadnezzar. Jerusalem is now his. It's no longer Egypt's. And Zedekiah is supposed to give tribute to Nebuchadnezzar, to the main capital, because that's how they were supporting the capital, was by tributary states having to send tribute to the capital to take care of it. As the capital had grown so large that the farms were insufficient alone to take care of it, so they had to go to other kingdoms to get their farm goods to have tribute brought to the capital to take care of the large number of people that amassed there. And so it's talking about an actual date, but this is not literal history. This is not the actual time period of which they're talking about here. And so we need to find out if there's any kind of code for a date given in this beginning of the Book of Mormon. And so we'll have to keep reading, see if we can find that date. But there's also a clue with that date when we get to it. My father Lehi, having dwelt at Jerusalem in all his days. We would find out later he's from the tribe of Manasseh. And if you understand, Assyria had deposed the northern tribes into Assyria and then put what became Samaritans as they intermixed with the remainder that didn't get deposed in the northern tribes. There was lots of exoduses of families that fled the Assyrian deportation. And thus, that's what they're trying to portray here. And this is technically the first Exodus pattern of the Book of Mormon. It's an understood pattern, because they don't say that his family having escaped Assyrian deportation, and that's why he's living in Jerusalem. It's supposed to be understood because you understand the Bible. And so in that first year there came many prophets, prophesying unto the people that they must repent, or the great city Jerusalem, not Jerusalem, must be destroyed. Wherefore it came to pass that my father Lehi, as he went forth, prayed unto the Lord, yea, even with all his heart, in behalf of his people. And it came to pass, as he prayed unto the Lord, there came a pillar of fire, and dwelt upon a rock. And he saw and heard much, and because of the things which he saw and heard, he did quake and tremble exceedingly. All right. That's similar to Moses and the burning bush.
Dustin echoes, you have a visitor at the front desk. Dustin echoes, you have a visitor at the front desk.
But instead, here it's a rock. It's not a rock in a hat. Just a rock, crystal ball, crystal vision. And and it came to pass that he returned to his own house at Jerusalem. And he cast himself upon his bed, being overcome with the Spirit, and the things which he had seen. And being thus overcome with the Spirit, he was carried away in a vision. So it's not literal history, and now you're even being told that what you're about to read is not literal. Even that he saw, oh, here it is, a star date. The heavens open. We are about to get the date for the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah encoded. We're going to get the decoder ring from the Cracker Jack box to figure out the date. And he saw God sitting upon his throne, surrounded with numerous concourses of angels in the attitude of singing and praising their God. Revelation chapter 12, verse 5, which Smith Sr. had moved with the Joseph Smith translation to verse 3. So it's part of that star date given by John in Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and now 5, which became 3 in the Joseph Smith translation. And so let's see if the rest of it corresponds with that same. Yeah, it does. And it came to pass that he saw one descending out of the midst of heaven, and his luster was above that of the sun at noonday. That's Amun. There he is, in the language of the Egyptians, translated. Sun at noonday. The hidden name. And so this is Jupiter, from Revelation chapter 12, star sign. And he also saw 12 others following him. Yeah, on the crown of Virgo. 12 stars. And then the constellation of Leo. And their brightness did exceed that of the stars of the firmament. We now have the date that the Book of Mormon is setting up for us right from the very beginning. The first year of the reign of King Zedekiah is 23rd September 2017. And wouldn't you know it, there was a presidential election in 2016 on which was put in 2017. The first year in 2017. Was he a puppet king to a foreign government seeking to conquer us? Yeah. This is where I lose my MAGA audience, as they too are, just like Mormons, in denial and get angry and violent when you expose them. But, I mean, seriously, they all claim to be Bible worshippers, and yet they can't figure out that MAGA is the sign on the forehead, that the beast is a representation of king, and he's taken over, and he is a beast from all that he does, and you're not catching on? And so this was planned. He was groomed to be. And we learned from the news, as we go back in time, in the 80s, he went to Russia with his Miss Universe sex trafficking, Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking, and wanted to meet Putin and was willing to serve him as the puppet. And so, yeah, it's not a coincidence that Russia was heavily invested in altering the outcome of the 2016 election. This has already happened. These are all facts. The Book of Mormon was warning us of it. Alrighty. So, can you guess what Jerusalem is now? America, America, God shed his grace on thee. Alright, and they came down, went forth upon the face of the earth, and the first came and stood before my father. And this is William Morgan in this particular instance, and gave unto him a book, and bade that he should read. William Morgan obtained secret information about the plot to overthrow America. And they were going to use the Bible with the star dates to coordinate that attack. So they had 200 years to plan and prepare, get everybody in their various positions throughout the nation. He was filled with the Spirit of the Lord, and he read, saying, Woe, woe unto Jerusalem, for I have seen thine abominations. Yea, and many things did my father read concerning Jerusalem, that it should be destroyed, and the inhabitants thereof. Many should perish by the sword, and many should be carried away captive into Babylon. This is a double thing here. Because we've seen in Ukraine that Putin has taken hostages from Ukraine and sent them into Russia. He's now trying to claim that if you leave Ukraine and come to Russia, you'll get paid for doing so. But remember, he's using the time period, and that's what Babylon actually did. And so you need to understand that it's not going it's not going to be in the exact same manner. It's a pattern, like the Exodus patterns. Not every Exodus pattern will be employed necessarily, unless you get down to an individual person basis of surviving Mormons. Oops, am I jumping ahead of myself? And it came to pass that when my father had read and seen many great and marvelous things, he did exclaim many things unto the Lord, such as, Great and marvelous are thy works, O Lord God Almighty. Thy throne is high in the heavens, and thy power, thy goodness, and mercy are over the inhabitants of the earth, because thou art merciful. Thou wilt not suffer those who come unto thee that they should perish. That's the concluding sentence near the end, or at the end of this chapter. And after this manner of language of my father was the language of my father in the praising of his God, for his soul did rejoice. And his whole heart was filled because of the things which he had seen, yea, which the Lord had shown unto him. So now I, Joseph Smith Sr., speaking for Joseph Smith Jr., do not make a full account of the things which William Morgan had written. For he hath written many things which he saw in visions and dreams, being Jacob the usurper of the information of this group. Which he shall not make a full account, because he had to flee the country, and time has gone by. And so, yeah, just a summary of the account. I shall make an account of my proceedings in my days, having taken over the responsibility to finish the book. But I make an abridgment of the record of William Morgan upon plates which I have made with my own hand, gold plates, Egyptian gold plates. The Yorkites, Knights Templar. Wherefore, after I have abridged the record of my father, then will I make an account of mine own life. Therefore I would that ye should know that after the Lord had shown so many marvelous things unto my father Lehi, yea, concerning the destruction of America, behold, he went forth among the people and began to prophesy, and to declare unto them concerning the things which he had both seen and heard. They're going to destroy us. The Illuminati are coming. The Illuminati are coming. 2 if by land, 3 if by sea, or whatever. Yep, that's what he was doing. And it came to pass that the people at that time in the early 1800s did mock William Morgan because of the things which he testified of them. For he truly testified of their wickedness and abominations. You guys are evil, you're going to destroy America. Shame on you. Repent. And he testified that the things which he saw and heard, and the things which he read in the book, manifested plainly of the coming of a Messiah. This is Yorkites. There's a reason why they have a cross, not a T, not a post, a cross with a headless crown. It's similar to a pyramid that has no capstone. It's the coming of the bloodline, the Messiah. This is the learning of the Jews. This is not Jesus. Get Jesus out of your mind. Joseph Smith says he's going to be Mormon from the Great and Abominable Church to rescue Mormons in bondage to the Great and Abominable Church and the redemption of the world. And so you've got to put in the Mormon here. And when? Yeah, the coming of 2017, 23rd September 2017. I went over that several times in videos, even yesterday, going over Matthew chapter 2, because, again, not literal. And so, the birth of Jesus was on this wise in Bethlehem. That's the star Spica in Virgo. That's when Jupiter leaves on the 23rd September 2017. The Messiah is now among Mormons in Judah. So 103:16, the Exodus. And when the Jews heard these things, they were angry, even as with the prophets of old. And they cast out and stoned, slain, and sought his life, that they might take it away. They want to murder William Morgan. I cannot talk. It causes me to cough. And had him falsely locked up in jail, like Jeremiah was falsely locked up in jail during this captivity time. But behold, I, Nephi, will show unto you the tender mercies of the Lord over all those whom he hath chosen, because of their faith. Because that's all you need, right? Faith without works. No more to the rest of that sentence. To make them mighty even unto the power of deliverance. Yep. And Exodus. So you see how that was done? Because then we can even go into 2. Get to the actual Exodus itself. For behold, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto William Morgan, even in a dream, and said unto him, Blessed art thou, William Morgan, because of the things which thou hast done, because thou hast been faithful and declared unto the people the things which I commanded thee. Behold, they take away your life. So Joseph Smith Sr. is going to help you flee the country. And it came to pass that the Lord commanded my father, even in a dream, that he should take his family and depart in the wilderness. It had to be just him. He had to abandon his family because of the urgency of the threat to him. He didn't want to put his family in jeopardy, and so he alone had to leave to save his wife and kids. Can't remember how many he had. And so they were stuck in Batavia at the home, and that's why he didn't do the work at his home. And that's why he came to Canandaigua, where Joseph Smith Sr. was the master mason, worked with him to do it. And so Junior, not having a lodge of his own, not even being old enough to have a lodge of his own, he's still a minor. You have to be an adult. And so Hiram was a member in the Palmyra Lodge, and you can't be in the same lodge as a family member. That's why Senior had his lodge in Canandaigua, and that allowed Hiram to be a member in Palmyra. And so Junior,
Sean Lockhart, you have a phone call.
Where's he gonna go?
Sean Lockhart, phone call at the main desk.
Is he going to go with his brother Hiram to his meetings as often as occasion would permit? Or Daddy's? Yeah, he's going to go with Daddy. And so Junior got to listen in on all of this. That's why Junior was chosen for the frontman position, is because Junior was aware of all this. And so if he's going to be aware, he needs to know all that's going on so that he can talk about it independent, because he doesn't have anything to do with the composition of the Book of Mormon, guys. Sorry, ex-Mormons. I know you thought it was awesome to find Captain Kidd plagiarized in here, and Joseph Smith's school book, and other fun stuff. But Joseph Smith Jr.'s linguistic pattern's not in here. Sidney Rigdon is. Sorry. That's why Lamanites and Nephites are here. Is because of Sidney Rigdon's obtaining of the Solomon Spaulding document. And Sandra Tanner apparently does not understand this, that when you go to a publisher, you don't have the money to publish, but you drop it off with them, they can't do anything with it. They can't self-publish it, or they can't publish it on behalf of the guy and say, oh, you just pay us when you can. That wouldn't be good business. People could screw them over. And so they could only sit on it until he could finally pay it off. But he died in 1818 and never got it paid, never got it published. And so the press is stuck. The only thing they can do with it is give it away or destroy it, throw it away. And since Sidney Rigdon was frequenting that bookshop or print press for books for his library, he had a library, guys. Where do you think he got those books from? He then took possession of it, obviously, because he's the major author, and it has some of those hallmarks that are familiar with other writings of Solomon Spaulding that we do have access to because of the kids looking through the steamer trunk of his and finding the Roman version of that same document. He was just rewriting it in different time periods. And so he was obedient, left, departed from America to save his life. And so then Nephi takes over, and Senior. See how that's working? But he's talking as if he's Junior. So this is how you do the whole thing. You got to use the science, follow the science. That will lead the narrative. And because I did the scientific research of the historical origins, it's completely different than the Joseph Smith history narrative. Because I knew of the learning of the Jews, because I know of the language of the Egyptians, I'm able to decode the Book of Mormon. And I just gave you an example here. And so, isn't that fun? So, almost got dinner time, or lunch time. And so, we'll see what happens. I should probably add here, because this first departing is the time frame given later on for 600 years since Lehi left Jerusalem, came the Christ. This was a date that indicates 4 CE. Not BCE, 4 AD CE. And as Mormons, I throw in 6th of April. However, when I did the research, the scientific research, looking for signs in the heavens during that time period, I found one. And it was on 8 April 4 CE. And the location of that on Earth is very, very interesting, because we're looking for Russia, right? Russia is Babylon that put the puppet king on the throne of America. And so, where does this annular eclipse take place? In 8 April 4 CE, over Russia. They even knew the plotted country to put the puppet king on the throne of America. 200 years they've been working on this. And it was in the early 1900s when Russia adopted the Scottish Rite seal, the two eagles. And so these guys have been very meticulous in their planning and their plotting to overthrow America. They're trying to cover every single detail and basis here, as we can see. And in case you are unaware, because you're not watching, you're new, and I warned you not to watch if you're new, 8 April 2024 is the third final day of darkness over America that crosses. See, everybody knows, even the enemy. And that's when the Messiah takes over the throne of Zion, the New Jerusalem, who's going to be a Mormon, according to the Smiths. And 20 years difference. And so 2020, yeah. That was supposed to be the Exodus, guys. And it came and went. And I warned you. And I told you about it. And there were signs in the heavens. And none of you believed and were prepared. And so, no Exodus. And thus no Zion. Because 3 Nephi 11... yeah, they're at the temple in Bountiful after the complete and utter destruction by climate crisis change and the coup of the government. Yeah. And so, yeah, we were also supposed to save the Constitution in the 2020 election. And how did that work? Oh, another Utah in the news today is about to get punished for his participation. But, dear God. So, yeah, that they knew. For the Smiths to be able to have that much knowledge of the plot, to put it in the Book of Mormon for us, yeah, the enemy was very meticulous in their planning. And so when Albert Pike's letter to Giuseppe Mazzini, yeah, that's like a Cliff Notes version. He doesn't give the precise details that he himself also knew. He was doing the summary of what was going to be done. So, you know, what do we do, guys? We're going to go on a forced exodus and no temple. And section 45, remember, not literal. It's Mormons.